Bonjour à tous. Welcome to this webinar. Today we are going to focus on French and we are going to discuss various possibilities that French can open for you in terms of professional life or culture and tourism a little bit, but mostly professional. The reason why we wanted to do this is because we work in teaching French, that is our domain, and of course we respect the objective of all of most of our students. Those target is to achieve Canadian permanent residency, but at the same time there are so many other benefits or plus points of learning French, so we wanted to shed some light on that. Très bien. Can you just see it now?
Yeah, you can.
For me, honestly, when I was in your shoes, the reason that I started learning French was to immigrate to Canada. That was the reason. Okay, I will not beat around the bush and say, "Oh, I love French language." That's a no. For me, at that point of time in my life, my priority was immigration. So that was the only reason I started learning French. However, I examined all my options. As I said, like, how can I immigrate to Canada? I did not have master's degree, whatever the age constraint, so my CRS score was not good enough. So I reached to a conclusion that one of the options is French. At that time, I did not speak any French, zero, rien, nada. And I did examine other possibilities and everything. Nothing worked out, so French was the thing. I did not know anything. As I said, I have said multiple times, I did not know anyone who had given this exam, cleared this exam. There were no institutes at that time, in my city at least, who were coaching for these exams. So I was pretty much shooting in the dark. And I did not know how long it's going to take to learn French to that level, to clear the exam with that CLB 7 score. So everything was undefined. Uh, so then why? How did I take that risk? Why did I take this risk? Why did I put all my eggs in the French basket to make a croissant? But that came later. So the reason I did this was somehow when I explored a language a little bit, like just as a internet search, I loved the language. Like sitting along table, it's a beautiful language to hear, to listen to, and I did some digging on I did some digging on internet, like the uses of French and everything, and that convinced me that what, I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to crack this exam with that score, but I like this thing. Like I like the destination. The destination was to go to Canada, like you, but I like this journey also. Like I can do this. I would like this, like like learning French. And immediately I started telling myself reasons that apart from Canadian immigration, what other benefits will it give me? Okay. So I was like, yeah, I can find a job in France if I get really good at it. At that time, I did not know, but I was like, if I get really good at it, maybe I can find a job in France. I can visit 20 plus countries. I can go to Switzerland. I can go to Belgium. I can do this and I can do that. More importantly, though, I love the way it sounded. I listened to some songs, some movies, and I was like, oh boy, this sounds so good. This sounds so good. So Canada was the reason, I will not lie. But once I took the call, I I I started thinking about French. It was not easy, of course. It's not an easy language to learn, but because I liked the language, I liked the hard work, I liked the whole thing, and I had this context that it has more benefits than just Canadian immigration. It kept me going. It kept me going through uncertain times, through difficult topics, through I was looking for study partners, and many times people would not respond, they would not show up. So all the ups and downs, I joined institute to get study partner. Institute was really bad. So all these bad things, but I knew that this is worth it. All this struggle is worth it. Why? Not just because of Canadian immigration, but the other aspects of it. So, one thing we have made very clear to you, if you learn French, if you get CLB 7 in French, whenever you get it, You get it today, you get it 6 months down the line, you get it 1.5 years down the line, you get it 2 years down the line. French speakers will always have doors open by Canada. French speakers, francophone immigrants will always be welcome in Canada. So do not worry. Stop worrying. I think the biggest historical trend that we have seen with our students is that they decide to learn French for Canadian immigration, but they never commit to French. They keep having these questions about when do I give the exam? How soon can I go? I understand. But once you have taken this call, leave it aside. Now focus French. And if Canadian immigration is not sufficient for you, a reason, if it's not, if that is not enough for to keep you motivated, to keep you going, then you must know that that is not the only benefit of learning French. And that is why we have organized this seminar, because we see that people start learning, but they never fully commit to it. They never give, they're always about destination, but they never give respect to the journey. And the journey is learning French. And good news is, apart from the obvious destination of immigrating to Canada, this journey can lead you to some amazing possibilities, amazing possibilities. And I am the good example of this. I'm speaking about this because I'm a good example of this. I only started learning French because I had no other option left to immigrate to Canada, but I did not want to do masters at that time. So I wanted to do it quickly in 10 months or whatever. But then pandemic happened and Canadian government suspended the treatment, or traitement we say in French. So, like, I also speak in English in French now. Traitement is the processing of applications. So it took forever. And instead of waiting, I went to France to improve my French, and bunch of possibilities opened up. And now I have a European blue card, which is a Canadian equivalent of Canadian PR card, except that you become a permanent resident of all European countries. So did I know this? Probably not. But I knew that if I learn French, if I master French, it will have a lot of benefits. And one of these benefits is this. So my point is, I'll just summarize before we move on to the actual benefits, is that learning French for Canadian immigration is always a good idea. Whether you do it today, you do it 2 years later, you do it 5 years down the line, doesn't matter. If you learn French, if you work hard, if you give it respect, if you like the language, if you master it, you will go to Canada. I mean, you will be able to go to or immigrate to Canada. So once you decide this to go down this path, stop worrying about IRCC. Stop worrying about Justin Trudeau. Stop worrying about all those things. And put all your attention and energy and appreciation for French. Because that itself is a challenge, and you must enjoy this challenge. And I will give you more reasons apart from Canadian immigration. That is a good reason itself. But I'll give you more reasons why you should, learn French. So let us start with that. So as I said, as Soha mentioned, we have 300 million people worldwide who speak this language. It's amazing language. By the way, so many times you will have this doubt. Oh, this is very difficult. Oh, there are so many exceptions. Oh, I don't know how they pronounce this. This is too difficult. Remember, 300 million people speak it. I mean, there are many French speakers who are half as educated as you, who have half as resources as you. Probably they do not even have access to internet. Even they speak French. So if they can, you can. You're not in minority. You're not doing something. You're not building rockets for NASA. You're not trying to build a rocket to moon or something. You are learning a language which is spoken by millions of people. So if they can, then you can. As we said, this is the official language of 30 plus countries, including France, Canada, Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and many other countries. I mean, when we say 30 languages, 30 countries, it's either first official language or second official language, but an official language. It's an official language of United Nations, European Union, UNESCO, NATO. Before English, French used to be the main language for international diplomacy. So it has a rich historical and cultural significance. Global community, it's the same thing. If you learn French, you can a lot of doors open for you in a global community. As we mentioned, it's a language of still remains a language of international diplomacy. One more point I wanted to bring to your notice. I don't know if you have been paying attention, but France, if you are, especially if you are from India, or France is playing a very active role with Asian countries. There's going to be so many more trade and opportunities between India and France. Obviously, France is also part of NATO and Western political alliances, so they also have the similar opportunities, but especially with India. So there might be much more cooperation and job creation between these two countries. That's just the fact. I'm not inventing these things. Okay. So that is one more reason that you should consider learning French. Uh, let's talk about professional opportunities, some of the sectors that French is important. Tourism. I mean, Paris is the most visited city in the world. I live here. I mean, they say it's Bangkok technically, but well, I don't care. I mean, after Bangkok, it's Paris or Bangkok. Bangkok, I guess people also go for some other reasons. So I would say for pure tourism purpose, Paris would be the most visited city in the world. And also, it's not just Paris. It's so much tourism here, apart from Paris, also in France and nearby countries. Hospitality and culinary arts. I mean, it's world famous French cuisine. There are so many students I know who come from all over the world here in France to study culinary arts. And there's lots of great career opportunities here in the tourism, hospitality, and culinary sectors. France is very known, if you not know this, France is very known for its business schools, like the MBA programs. Most of the students I see here are studying MBA. So it's a very big international business destination. International diplomacy and relations, again, France is very well known to mediate between various world matters. So there are very good schools and companies where you can pursue a career in this sector. Translation and interpretation, if you master French, because France is such a key player in world trade or world politics, you can also explore translation and interpretation opportunities if you get that at least C1 level in French. Education and language teaching, you can go to France, and because France badly needs more English speakers, because the English is not very prevalent here, so you can go and teach English in France, so you can do that, or in some other francophone regions, or you can teach French in non-francophone countries, like in India you can teach French like we do, or in United States you can go and teach French, or wherever you are, or Canada you can teach French. If you move to Canada, you can start a French teaching job or something. In Canada job market, it's tough, especially if you move to Ontario, Vancouver. Cost of living is tremendous, and you must have seen so many videos. So it's not just about going to Canada somehow. It's also how do you settle there, how do you thrive there, right? You can't just think about, oh, somehow I will end up in Canada. Oh, we get it. Yes, that's important. But it's you also have to plan a little bit further. Like, how will you grow? How will you maintain a certain standard of living? How will you create career opportunities? Because it's super competitive, because it's such a open immigration programs. People come from all over the world. So it's very competitive job market, especially in certain cities where, most of the immigrants, new immigrants end up moving to. So if you know French, it will open up many more doors than just speaking English. That's just another fact. I'm not making this thing up. So if you know French, in Canadian job market, your value will grow multifold. Uh, so as I said, these are some of the. I will not go through all of these things, and we can share this information with you on link on YouTube. But and we are not career counselors. What we are trying to do here is that bring to your attention that the path that you have chosen has many more possibilities in it, not just Canadian immigration. It is Canadian immigration is always there. As I said for the 100th time, francophone people, francophone immigrants will be always the priority of Canada because of the political reasons. So you have to stop thinking and worrying about it. but you can look at these other possibilities. You can look at these other benefits. Why? Because you have to respect the journey that you have taken. You have to understand that it's more than the end final destination. That is why. Uh, with language technology and artificial intelligence growing more and more, you can combine your skills and thus move on to the next. There's a good chance, and this is a good chance, this is not a movie scenario. There's a good chance that many of our jobs, current jobs, will become obsolete because of AI, maybe in 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. Have you thought about it? But because you're so consumed by Canada that you don't give a shit about what's going to happen. So learning a language is art. Language is art. Okay. So when it comes to art, I don't think AI will be able to take it over completely. When it comes to very mechanical work, or let's say technical work of just reproducing the same thing, probably AI will take up those jobs. When it comes to language is an art. Languages are ambiguous. Ritesh Deshmukh, they have multiple meanings. So even AI cannot work very efficiently with arts. I mean, so I would always say that having some kind of art or specialization in some kind of art will always keep you in good shape when it comes to the future career prospects. So this, we talked about professional benefits, right? Now there are other benefits of French, like not just professional fulfillment, but also personal fulfillment. Like, trust me when I say this, I still have Canadian permanent residency, of course, and I might end up moving there at some point of time. But when I live in Europe, especially in France, the biggest difference that I noticed between United States, I was there studying in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is also a cultural capital because of Hollywood and everything. But even then, when I compare the whole country of United States to France, there's so much more culture here, so much more culture. Every small city or town will have best of museums, best of libraries. I mean, you should see the National Library of France in Paris. It's like four buildings of United Nations. United Nations headquarters in New York. Those are like four buildings like that, just as a library. So there's so much culture to discover. There's so much culture to discover. So much art to consume, and it's very fulfilling. Now we are not talking about just professional or money aspects. We're talking about, it improves your personality if you know French, because you can read so much. You can, you know, discover so many paintings or so many stories. As I like say, France is famous for museum, Paris itself, but also. Um, so let me just conclude. I mean, I think we are at the very end of the presentation, and I'll take questions. And if you can ask questions, but again, please do not ask immigration questions. This is not a session where we're going to talk about immigration. This is a session we're going to talk about benefits of French. I have been in both shoes. I only learned French to get immigration benefit, but I ended up getting much more than I asked for by learning, respecting, liking, even loving French. That's my truth. That's my reality. And even though you might not take the same path as me, it's okay. But you should be aware that learning French itself is a big deal. It's worth your effort, time, and money, and sweat and blood, everything. It's not just Canada or nothing. If you learn French, and when I say learn French, you actually speak it, you understand it. You don't learn in a sense, you don't solve some Duolingo fill in the blanks. That's not learning French. If you actually speak it, if you actually respect it, if you struggle for it, if you don't give up on it, this is a lifelong skill that you are adding to your resume, to your life, to your personality, and it matters. And this is not just a promotional marketing campaign. We are done with our admissions now. We don't need, this is the truth. One thing we are doing this, one reason is that many students start with us on, they purchase some form of our program, either online tutorials program or live preparation program or some other program, but they discontinue or they cannot keep up the intensity, or they do not even study at all, and they keep coming back, they keep asking, when will I go to Canada, when will I do this, but it's not all about Canada. You have to understand that this process, this journey of learning French is important too. If you're not studying for 2 days, or if you did not study for 1 week, that you should worry about that instead of just worrying about when is the next draw happening, what was the last draw. If you learn French, if you get CLB 7 level competency in French, you will go to Canada. Trust me on this. As long as Quebec is there, part of Canada, Francophone speakers are more than welcome there. So now you have to just focus and worry about, and maybe look at the benefits, motivate yourself. Why learning French is nice, learning French is good, learning French is beneficial, learning French is amazing. It's worth it. It's worth it. And as I said, it might seem difficult, but remember, millions of people speak it. So if they can, you can. If these images are not enough for you to learn French, I don't know what is. Probably I'll show you a small video.